All right, Cliff, I listened to your response. Your whole problem is that you're trying to force D Dorian over G minor. Over D, you're not making the chord change. There's your problem. You're hitting that B natural over the G. That's got to be flattened. When it goes to the G chord, you got to switch to G Dorian. So there's your problem. This is going to really help you because you're playing the wrong scales over the wrong chord. First of all, on the D minor, you don't want to be playing D Aeolian. It's going to totally limit you. Again, if you're going to play, instead of playing D Aeolian, if you want that flat sixth, look at it from the 5 chord as your flat 9 or the harmonic minor scale. But the reason we look at the Dorian is because every note works. Every note is a resolution. Again, basic blues licks. That's not a major blues lick, that's a minor blues lick, but the major sixth is there. That's a typical Larry Carlton lick. And again, there's your tritone that you want. That's the sound. That's that minor sixth sound you want. This is what you should be hearing comping behind. You should hear this. That's the harmony you should hear. Each note I'm making in a minor 6 chord, and you want to follow. When it changes over the D minor, you play D Dorian. Over the G minor, you play G Dorian. Over the A minor, the A Dorian. Or if you want to, if it's going to resolve back to the 1, that's when you want to make it a altered 7 chord. Instead of the minor 6th, you want to make it a 7. And that's diminished in all the, That's all your altered sounds. That's on the 5. But for now we're going to keep it the minor 6, and you play A Dorian on it. If it's the and then on the turnaround it'd be the 5. Whatever. But the problem is you're trying to play D Dorian over the G. That note's not going to make it. That's the first thing you did in your response there when you said, "Listen," because you played the. You're thinking because that B flat that's being heard on the G chord, not on the D minor chord. You want to hear that the major 6. So the comping. If you're looking at this from the relative, if you want to make this a major blues or a dominant 7 blues, you could. Wes Montgomery does that. I forget the songs, but he plays which song is it? Kariba, is it? Or he plays on the G minor chord. He'll play over G7, and then when it goes to the when it goes to G minor, he plays over the C7 chord. So he's playing the relative dominant 7s from looking at it from the minor. The D minor, your G7 is relative on the G minor, and the C7 is relative. So he's playing over the relative, and you can do that. Or the relative minor 7 flat 5. All the relative chords I've been showing you in the Benson method. You can substitute those chords and play over those chords if you would like, and treat it like a dominant 7 blues. You get the same notes, but it'll sound a little bit different because you're accentuating different notes. That's the beauty of knowing all those substitutions. You could play over the substitutions and get different sounds over a basic progression like this. But anyway, you're trying to force fit everything. You're saying a D Aeolian because that note is in there and that's on the 4 chord. But no, you want to create different resolutions to create movement. It's getting back again. You want to create movement and resolution points so it doesn't all sound stagnant like you're just playing on one key. You want to create movement in your lines, movement from here to there, and draws you. That's what keeps it interesting. That's the difference between Yeah, and even B.B. King, if you listen, he plays the major sixth, and Albert King, a lot of times on the minor blues, they'll play the major sixth. They'll bend from the major sixth up to... There's a typical, like, Albert King line. Major sixth, not the minor sixth. That's all just typical minor blues sounds coming from Dorian, the major sixth, B.B. King. Listen to Larry Carlton. He talks all about that, the major sixth. But anyway, that's what your problem is. You're force fitting you try to play D Dorian or the one minor Dorian over the 4 chord. And that's not what you do. When it goes to the 4 chord, you switch to that appropriate Dorian sound. And you do the same on the 5 chord if the 5 chord is minor. Of course, on the 5 chord, especially when it's resolving back to the 1 and not going to the 4, but you could do it either way. Miles Davis has plenty of songs that go down to the 4 chord there from the 5. It's not acting, I guess, as a true dominant, whatever, just a whole step down. But when it goes to the 5 chord, you just add, if it's a minor chord, you add the major third, which creates a 7 sharp 9, or if the 13's in there, 13 flat 9 chord going back to the 1 chord. So you would have like that sound over the A creates another tritone actually. So over the A7 chord going back to the D. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Anyway, so it's just simply playing the appropriate scale over the appropriate chords and not just trying to play in a key, which you're trying to do. Doesn't work.